welcome to this video. I'm going to be reviewing the CRTP / giving you like tips on how to pass. I believe that this certification is more on the beginner to intermediate side, although there are quite a bit of things involved that make it potentially difficult for a beginner. So I'm going to like lay it down and kind of give you the best possible chances at succeeding in both the lab and the exam. So let's get right into it. So and go over what the content is going to be about today. I'm going to be going over the CRTP, how the course works, how the exam works, a little bit of my background going into the course, my previous training, my experience in the lab, my experience using a C2 in the lab, and then I'm going to be going over a lot of tips. And these tips, like, to be honest, are not just regarding this course. Like, you could probably utilize the tips in this video for even your whole penetration testing journey in any course or in real life. So that's sort of the overview of this video. And yeah, let's get right into it. So firstly, all right, so what is this course? By the way, here's my certificate. Looks kind of standard. Like, I feel like the golden standard now for how certificates look is the Hack the Box certificates, because they look like absolutely insane. But you know, it still has value just because of the logo. Like, you know, the helmet logo is something that we all know because of Altered Security using it all the time. And I kind of got into a liking of this like helmet logo because as a red teamer, you're like on the offense. And so, you know, you're putting on your red teaming helmet on to go on the offense and just like completely destroy the environment. Except if you do, you'll probably get like millions of charges. But anyways, yeah, this is a certificate. I got this last night, and it took them about a week or maybe 2 weeks after submitting the exam to, you know, pass me, check my report, and then issue the certificate. So, you know, let's get actually into what the course is and what the exam is like. So just a little bit of basics about the CRTP. So this is a certification that is, you know, supposedly for beginners. Even in here it says course and certification in their little table. It says beginner to no experience, get 3 months. Intermediate, get 2 months. Expert, get 1 month. So when I go over my lab experience, I'm going to be able to share with you that it took me about 2 weeks to do the lab, and I did the lab twice. First time with the C2 and the second time just using Windows. But that is because of my prior experience and my prior training that I'm going to share with you. But we'll get to all of that. So firstly, what is the CRTP? Certified Red Teaming Professional. You basically go over a entire network with multiple domains and multiple forests. That means you're going to be, you know, obviously utilizing cross-trust vulnerabilities and things to pivot. And within each Active Directory, there's going to be different attacks. And like, if you're a beginner listening to me say this, you're obviously going to be like, bro, that's not beginner at all. Like when I'm talking about beginner, like, you know what I did when I was a beginner? Bro, I was like learning Python. Like I was making Python scripts and utilizing Bash to traverse the directory and make little scripts to do little things that are somewhat related to hacking. but they're not getting deep into hacking. Like that's beginner. But nowadays, like every company, like every platform and their freaking mom is like, hey, come do this certificate. It's completely beginner friendly. And I'm just like, bro, I've been through these quote unquote beginner friendly certifications. Like OSCP is supposed to be beginner friendly. And there are on the boxes on the exam for the OSCP, if you listen to people's experience, there are attacks on those boxes, some of them that are in insane boxes, insane level boxes on Hack the Box. And the OSCP is supposed to be beginner friendly. And I think even the CPTS is advertising itself as a beginner friendly penetration testing course. Like what? Like did you even do like a single module of the CPTS? It takes like on the note of misleading and things like that, like the CPTS modules take so much longer than the CRTP lab. Like the CRTP lab, if we're going to label anything as like more beginner friendly, I'd say the CRTP is on the side of like more beginner friendly. But just because it has so much stuff, like I'm going to show you here the little chart that they made. If I go to the course page, see, where is the course page? Like, look at this graph. And this graph doesn't do justice to how big the lab is. The lab is absolutely humongous. And you'll get the most out of the lab by fully experimenting and fully, redoing things until you get the absolute hang of it. And when you do that, you'll probably be able to spend like at least half a month to a month on this lab. I spent 2 weeks on it, but yeah, this lab includes attack chains that are just simply, you cannot label them beginner friendly. And I have permission to show you the lab. I have permission to disclose some of the things. And I got that permission from the lab team. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the lab and what I mean. But like this whole beginner friendly thing is like, just know, like even the other people that are doing the lab with me, you can tell the people who are coming in as beginners are just asking questions nonstop in the chat, whilst the penetration testers and the experienced people are just blowing through it. Like they're doing it like within a few days. This guy, he's a penetration tester, and he told me, bro, I didn't have time until there was only a few days left of my lab time until expiry, so I had to do it within a weekend. And he just plowed through the lab within a weekend. And even me, when I did it the second time, I did the lab it only took me like 2 or 3 days to do the lab on Windows. But when you're coming in as a beginner, I highly suggest, and I'm gonna go over the prior training that I did, but I highly suggest you do some prior beginner friendly training and some prior Active Directory, foundational Active Directory training. And I'm gonna get to what that is, but let's go ahead and finish going over the so what's included, the lab. And the lab, like I said, it's going to be based on multiple attack chains. And over here, it's kind of misleading. It shows you one single attack chain. It's not one single attack chain. Like there will be like two attack chains here, and then 2 more attack chains here to get to the same place, and then maybe like 3 attack chains to demonstrate how to do one single thing. And it'll be multiple different attack chains leading to the same step. And that's how it works. So you can imagine if it just looks like this, you can multiply this by like 3 or 4, and then you'll get the idea of how much content is in the lab. I can just show you here my notes. If you look at my, you can see through my notes how long it is. each one of these pages is like a section of the lab. And here I went through the windows, and here it's even longer just going through windows. So there are a lot of sections, and yeah, let's go ahead and go back to this. So what else do they got here? You get a machine to connect to. Now in the lab, you get a machine like where you can sign in through the web, like through a tab on your browser, and then you get GUI access, like Guacamole or something. You get GUI access to do the lab through that VM, or you can use a VPN, and you can connect through RDP, or you can even use your Kali machine and attack the network through your Kali machine through the VPN. Now, a little bit of problem with that is that outbound from the lab environment is not possible by default. You inbound from the lab. So basically getting connections from your Kali as the lab environment machines is possible. So if you get it, you get it. But if you don't, basically, if you want to only use Kali as like practice, which is completely fine, you're gonna have to set up like maybe Legolo and set up some like pivoting and set up some proxies, reverse proxies, in order to do the whole lab on Kali. All right, so yeah, so this is a little bit about the lab, and there are walkthrough videos, although I've never watched them. Like I said, I'm going to get to my experience, but I did not need to watch the lab, watch the walkthrough videos. I just went through the lab and I went through the objectives, and then I used the lab guide to help me get through the objectives when I needed help. And that's what I use here, the lab manual. I did not use the course slides, but if I had to choose between the slides and the videos, I would choose the slides because it goes like with my own pace. You go on your own pace with the slides, whereas the videos, I usually don't like videos because they might be explaining something too slowly or something too quickly. Whereas the slides, you can read it. If you don't get it, you do some research, you do some chat GPT, you start to research it until you get it and then you can move to the next slide. So let's see how the training like platform actually works. So here, as you can see, my lab is still online. It expires a bit later. And basically you have the lab details, you have all the credentials you need. Yes, you get the web credentials to sign in onto the lab machine, and you can do the lab through that machine. And then you have VPN credentials. Like I said, if you want to involve Kali or if you want to RDP, I will go ahead and say that on the exam, there is no VPN and there is no web portal access. So the only thing you get is a publicly accessible machine that you can RDP into. You RDP into that machine, you transfer your tools, and then you attack the exam environment through that Windows machine that you RDP into. So, but in the lab environment, you do get your own BloodHound web UI. So you can use this BloodHound to enumerate, and you can do that in another tab on your browser. So just like the web access over here, you have web access to a BloodHound, and then you have the XDR dashboard. So this is where you can check the alerts that occur from your attacks, and you can cross-check different attacks with what alerts occurred and do some purple teaming / blue teaming analysis of what the attacks that you are doing are generating in terms of alerts and things like that. I did not use that either because I'm currently like I was just focusing on the red teaming experience that you get from this, and basically just preparing for the exam, where in the exam you don't have to evade MDR or XDR. You don't have to evade anything except for Defender. So evading antivirus is taught in the course. And it's actually one of the things that I liked about this course is that all the machines are updated. They have Defender online, and you get extra points in the exam. I believe that you get extra like recognition or something. They don't really fail you if you fail to utilize OPSEC, but they said that it's encouraged, and you get extra points for things like OPSEC, and you also get extra points for providing remediation and recommendations throughout the report. Actually, on the lines of, in terms of the report, there was like very little commercial grade reporting required. Like a lot of these certifications are have a reporting requirement, but personally, like in comparison to my real reports in real life, like these reports are absolutely like they're rubbish. Like they're not even close to commercial grade, and if they were commercial grade, they would require a lot more time and a lot more researching into every single vulnerability, providing remediation for every single vulnerability, and separating every single vulnerability into its own section in a report that has an executive summary, that has a action plan, that has like different sections like scoping and all of that, which my exam report in this course did not require. Like all I did was I put everything in my Notion. That's how I was reporting at first. And then I just took everything that I put in Notion and I converted it into a PDF in Notion. And that was basically my report. It was like done deal. And that report was accepted. I had minimal screenshots. Like I actually bet that my report was the shortest report ever submitted, because a lot of people think that you need to have a lot of screenshots in order to pass these reporting requirements. But the reality is that if you had a lot of screenshots in real life, your client would probably get like a little bit confused. Like, why is he screenshotting random output of random tools that was not the pivotal step of the attack, or was not like the determining factor of why there was a vulnerability? Like, it's just like 100 pages of screenshots, and I have no time to look through all of these screenshots. And so in real life, you don't actually screenshot everything. It's just like stupid. And I got very early on in my career, I was taught that you only screenshot the things that are absolutely necessary to screenshot. Otherwise, you keep the information about the vulnerability or misconfiguration or the attack, you keep it to one single screenshot with one single paragraph, and you move on to the next vulnerability. You don't take up unnecessary time from the reader. But in these reports for these exams, like I'll hear people saying, "Oh yeah, my report was 200 pages, bro." Like I was screenshotting everything. Like I did not screenshot everything. Actually, in Notion, you have the ability to put things in little code blocks. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we go here to this host, now as you can see, some things I did screenshot. Like I screenshotted this output with putting a little red box on it, which again, for reporting, as far as reporting is concerned, you should put red boxes around the highlighted information within your screenshots. And you screenshot things that you cannot put in code blocks. So like in this screenshot, I'm screenshotting a graph, and a graphical view is very hard to put in code blocks. So you obviously resort to a screenshot. So like one of the things that I the most thing that I screenshotted in the exam is BloodHound, like BloodHound graphs and BloodHound views of the attack path. And this is how I discovered the attack path before I did it. And it just made my report much more concise and much more focused. So my exam becomes much more like, I did this because I already discovered the attack on BloodHound. Whereas, you know, if my attack was just like tried out of random, I just guessed that maybe this is the attack and then I did it, my report would have been a little less valuable, and it would have been a little less, like a little more CTF-ish and a little less focused and a little less like, this is a real penetration tester knows what they're doing before they're doing it. And a real red teamer, since this is certified red teaming professional, you absolutely do not conduct attacks unless you know that there's a vulnerability to be attacked. Like, conducting attacks otherwise would create so much noise, and some of the attacks, if you fail them, they might have been a honeypot, like herb roasting honeypot, and honeypots like all around the environment, that if you conduct the attack without understanding that there is a real attack chain to be compromised, that might have been a trap, and you just conducted enough noise to be detected by the blue team. However, I want to get to, so as you can see, lots of BloodHound screenshots, and this is exactly how I did it on the report. And one thing about screenshots, like especially if you're trying to get better at reporting and if you're trying to make commercial grade reports, because ultimately, one thing about reporting is like that when I got my most recent job, one of the first things that I was asked is, hey, can you provide a redacted report? And when the employer is looking at your redacted report and they see like perfect screenshots, like of just the exact paths, so beautifully put in a BloodHound graph like this, and with no extra screenshots of massive output, they'll understand that you're not just a penetration tester, you're professional enough to lead their business to success. So here, as you can see, the screenshot is just big enough to capture the actual path, and the path here is shown like, and there's no extra stuff. So anyways, okay, but in terms of like when I said that the report did not have many screenshots, this is what I mean by that. So you can put code blocks in Notion, and when you export this page, for example, into a PDF, this code block will be retained. So you can actually see this like this block looking thing with the command in it. And then what I would do is, instead of taking a screenshot of the output, I would just do like snip and then blah 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 blah, and then snip of the critical output, like the most valuable output from the command that that the reader needs to know existed in order for them to understand what happened. Now, as you can see, this like little code block would be way smaller than if you took a screenshot, like a giant screenshot of all the output, and even if you highlighted the critical output, the big screenshot would take a lot of space on the report. So that's just a little bit about reporting. And like, this is kind of advice for just reporting in any exam, and mostly even reporting in real life where it actually matters and where it actually provides opportunities when you show these professional grade reports to the client. Now, I might even make like a whole video on reporting, just because it's so crucial. Like, I can't explain enough how crucial reporting is, because that's the entire deliverable. That's what the employer looks at when you show them a redacted report. They're like, so this is what he's going to provide if I hire him. And if that's good enough, then they hire you. It's literally that simple. But if there's no report, you don't have experience report, and you don't have real world experience, and you didn't even bother to make a real world report on any labs to redact them and like to give them as examples, then you're much worse off, and it's going to be much harder to get a job from those interviews that you land. Okay, so that's why my report was small. And what else is there? So as you can see here, there's the certification exam section. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show you. The flag verification section, which I'm definitely not allowed to show you, but in this section, you're basically going to go through a ton of objectives, and you have to fulfill those objectives by putting in information. Now, it's not always a flag. Sometimes it's like, what is the value of this specific DACL property on this computer or this user or whatever, and then you have to fill in the objective like little input box with that value. And if you get stuck, there's let's go over to the lab material here. There's the lab manual, and there's multiple different variations. There's like a variation with C2, and there's a variation just using Windows, and that has like a literal step-by-step guide to every single objective. So I know I said this is not beginner friendly, but damn, did they make it easy. So it is easy, but if you plow through it just following the step-by-step guide without understanding anything, it's going to make the exam really hard, and you're not going to pass if you don't understand what you're doing whilst you're doing these objectives. So they also have a bunch of other stuff that I did not check out. I did not do the walkthrough videos. I did not do the course videos, and that is because of my experience, which I'll get to. Now, there is a Discord server as well. So in the Discord server, I did get help, like on multiple occasions. People were replying to me, helping me out. Why isn't something working? Somebody told me I have to restart the PC, and then things started working, but we'll get to that problem. Actually, we'll get to my experience right now. There was minimal problems. So let me go ahead and back to this view. So, my experience doing this lab, firstly, there were minimal problems that were fixed, and I got help through like just reaching out to people on Discord, talking in the dedicated lab channel. They have a dedicated channel on their altered security server where you can talk about the lab, and you can get help there. So I did get help there. Like, I found that the memory of the jump box, or the student machine is what they call it, the memory got a little messed to the point where I couldn't properly utilize like different commands and different exploitations, specifically with Rubius. Rubius stopped working properly. Requesting tickets and passing tickets and injecting things, it stopped working, especially when I was doing the run with Cobalt Strike. I had problems with Cobalt Strike, and then somebody was like, hey bro, you got to restart your machine. And then I rebooted it and I restored it, and then it started working perfectly. So yeah, in terms of my lab experience, I think I already touched on the prior experience requirement. Well, I touched on the fact that this isn't truly, it's not fully beginner friendly, like as beginner friendly as something could be, just because they put so much content and so many attack paths. And these attack paths, like you want to do attack chains in Kerberos, like NTLM relaying, without understanding what NTLM is, or like how relaying works, or how to choose targets, how to find targets, and how different sessions work, like the difference between an LDAP session and an SMB session, and what to get for different occasions and what to get for different purposes. And these are all basics that personally I did not see in the, like, I didn't view the course material, but like I highly doubt that they adequately, teach all of these basics. And so when you're talking about beginner friendly and you're jumping to things like NTLM relaying and Kerberos, abusing Kerberos attacks, and like these are big subjects. Like when I first got into Kerberos attacks, like even just Kerberos, I was like, whoa. Okay, I get it. You just Kerberos this and then you crack it with Hashcat. I've cracked hashes before and it makes sense. You just get the hash. They didn't give you the plain text, but you could get the plain text. It's like, that was not sufficient enough for me to adequately be confident in what I'm doing and understand what I'm doing. I went and I opened a textbook of Windows internals for security professionals. And I went over the chapter of Kerberos to be able to say that I know the basics of Kerberosing. I went through Kerberos and that was my basics. Like this is skipping all of that. This is skipping basics for everything and going straight to the attacks. So personally, I do not feel that this is beginner friendly, but it's something that you can get over and you can get through if you have like the patience and if you have the ability to say, okay, I don't understand this thing fully, but I'm just going to memorize the attacks, take good notes, and understand the protocols. And you can probably get by that way, but I wouldn't say that I would say you're skipping the basics in doing that. But yeah, this is not a beginner-friendly course. I think it's still doable without it. There's too many attacks, too many attack paths, too many nuances, and yeah, but like if you're choosing between this and the OSCP or this and the CAPE, for example, then obviously this is way more beginner friendly. I would highly recommend this in your early stages. If you're super beginner, like completely clean, I would recommend that you try Hack Me. And that's going to be like a very minimal cost, low risk, kind of like you can do it at your own pace. And you can utilize that to experiment and find your pace and understand how much you're able to dedicate in time and effort before you go into a time-limited certification like this. But yeah, there's no like, if you have the money, then just jump into it. Like, don't be too stingy with your training, because like at the end of the day, you know, if cybersecurity is your dream, then go ahead and jump into like a certification that is at least somewhat beginner friendly and try your best. And even if you fail, you at least learned a lot from failing. Like I failed a lot of certifications before this, and it all contributed into the pen tester that I am today. And it contributed to me passing this certification. And it was very worth it to fail certifications. Actually, in terms of prior training, I'm going to go ahead and disclose that before this, I finished multiple different course material from different trainings, and specifically involving Active Directory. That's why I did not view any, course videos or course PowerPoints. I did the CRTO course material, the new lab, and the old lab, which had way more content than the new lab. I did the old lab like twice, and I did the new lab like twice for the CRTO. I did the CAPE. I did many Hack the Box CAPE modules, and those were the most thorough. Like each different section, like Kerberos attacks are covered, like all the Kerberos attacks, and Kerberos oriented relay attacks are covered. And so the CAPE is definitely the best one that you're going to want to do if you want to get completely familiar with Active Directory. I did the CPTS Active Directory module, and I did the OSCP course material as well. Now, for all of these, I did not pass the exams. Like for CRTO, I did reach the objective in the exam, but I failed it, which I'm going to make a video on. I failed the CAPE, failed the OSCP, like failed a lot of things, but they all contributed. The struggle and the grind and the training that was involved in preparing for those exams led me to be sufficiently adequate for something as small as a CRTP, which is small in comparison, but it's still very, I'd say it was challenging. Like the exam took me about the whole day. I did take breaks. I can't remember if I went to the gym or not, but I did take breaks. I took like hour-long breaks, 2-hour-long breaks. I didn't skip any prayers, which was like crucial for me because during exams and during penetration tests, I don't skip my prayers because like I truly believe that they help me a lot in succeeding, and it proved worthwhile in this attempt as well because after praying, I would be like, just completely cleansing my mind and getting this huge gap in intensive focus that completely refreshes your mind. And then I go back in and be like, whoa, I did not try so-and-so. I did not do that. And I did not enumerate that. And it led me to the next step. So that's my experience in the lab. And just one more thing is that I also utilize the lab to get experience and get practice with Cobalt Strike. Now, I did use Cobalt Strike because, in my job, we have red team engagements coming up, and I did not feel satisfied with my experience on the CRTO. And it proved worthwhile because utilizing a C2 outside of a C2 course is like a whole new world. You have to navigate so many different nuances and so many different little things that make things work. And by creating a playbook and by creating notes for that, you set yourself up a lot better for when you actually need to use the C2 and you already know like the little things, so you can focus on the big things. And that's what happened with me with my Cobalt experience in CRTP. All right, so now we are going to go over the tips that I have for the exam. And this is going to be a little longer of a section, but this is the most important section for you. All right, so let's get into this. So I've made a bunch of tips here. Firstly, you're going to want to do the lab twice. I would even recommend 3 times. Like, the lab is very similar to the exam to the point where I highly recommend you just do the lab until you understand everything, until you know how to repeat everything, until you know how to enumerate for the things that you're doing, not just doing them. That means when you get to an attack, you step back and you say, hey, how do I find out that I need to do this attack instead of just doing the attack? And you do the lab a couple of times, a few times, and you'll be sufficient, I'd say, you'd be sufficiently prepared for the exam. So take notes when doing the lab. I took notes in both rounds. I used Notion, and each page in the table is a section target hacked. The notes are clean, and I was able to reuse them on the exam. So let me show you my notes here. So if we go in here, my notes are clean. First, I connect to the box, and then I label things, discovering session-based attack path. So I went to BloodHound, and we'll get to BloodHound in a bit. But as you can see, there's a clear path to domain admin from this computer. And that's how I knew that this attack needed to be conducted. Now, this was not actually a requirement in the lab objectives. But I knew that in order to understand how to redo the attacks, I need to understand how to enumerate for the attacks. And what better way to know that you should conduct an attack than an entire attack path laid out in BloodHound? Now, if for enumeration, I recommend BloodHound, but I don't recommend you get too attached to BloodHound where, like, if you don't find something on BloodHound, you'll get completely lost. I recommend you confirm things using PowerView and using the AD module. Okay, so that's something that I'm saying for a particular purpose because sometimes BloodHound is going to fail you. So you need to understand how to redo the enumeration or confirm things or make sure that things do exist or don't exist using PowerView, because PowerView is more thorough and it checks the actual AD objects and their properties and everything, whereas BloodHound sometimes misses things or sometimes won't show something due to a specific relationship that your user has with the environment, or that you're not able to see something due to a trust. Whereas in PowerView, you can easily enumerate things like trusts. Like you just put in the command as an argument, you put the domain, the different domain, and you put the specific DC in that domain that you're going to query. And if you have a trust relationship, you can easily enumerate the AD objects of that different domain. So it's that simple. Whereas in BloodHound, you would have to use like another sharp view on the domain, specifying the different domain, or using the sharp view on a box that's in the other domain. And it's just a hassle. Whereas on PowerView, it's very thorough. So as you can see, this is how clean my notes are. And the reason why you don't take notes like this, or why people don't take notes like this, is because they think it takes a lot of time. But let me tell you, the trade-off between having clean notes that you can come back to, not just on the exam, not just on this lab, but on different courses and different labs, and even in the real world on penetration tests, it's going to be so valuable for you to have these notes in your pocket for the future. All right, let's get back to the tips. Make a playbook. It's different than taking notes. A playbook includes sections like initial discovery, where you outline everything you can enumerate right off the bat, and resource methodology, which includes your methodology for whenever you gain any specific resource. Check access if you obtain a user. Check DACL if you for a computer, for checking for RBCD. If you obtain a computer, etc. So let me show you what I mean by a playbook. Like in terms of my playbook, it's all in Excels. So in Excel, like as you can see here, if we go to CRTP Cobalt, these are evasive modifications for Cobalt that I required in order to evade Defender throughout the CRTP. Which scripts that I need to put into Cobalt. So these are like BOF scripts, and you add them to Cobalt to increase Cobalt's functionality. So I have just like the basics, and then I have, delivery, how you can deliver the beacon, built-in features like basics, housekeeping, spawn to, and then I have like different ways of executing on Cobalt. And this is what I mean by a playbook. You can just copy this and then paste it into your terminal, and then bam, you basically run it just like that. Or you change like little things, like for example here, you're going to have to change the PID. This PID is going to vary, and that's about it if you're using Kali, because this is my Kali directory, as you can see here. So if you go to Active Directory, my playbook here involves automated tools. These are a bunch of automated tools that I run off the bat in an internal penetration test that involves Active Directory. And these are a bunch of checkboxes of, making an inventory of the assets. And then these are areas of assessments where are also kind of like checkboxes, and they ensure that you don't miss anything throughout the internal penetration test. So after the basics and things like that, we go into the technical stuff. So authentication, these are different ways that you can authenticate using Active Directory. And then anonymous enumeration, these are different ways for you to enumerate anonymously. And this is what I mean by a playbook. So if you want any of my playbook sheets, you can go ahead and reach out to me in the comments of this video, or in LinkedIn, or in Discord. And this is what I mean by a playbook. So let's move on. Experiment in the lab. you have at minimum 1 whole month to do the lab. It took me just over 1 week to do it with Cobalt and only a few days using just Windows. So that means that I had plenty of time to experiment. Most of my experimentation was using Cobalt, but for you, it could be anything, whatever gaps you find in your skills or knowledge, go ahead and experiment with that. Find different tools that you can use to do the same thing. Experiment with all those tools. Like I went ahead and tried a bunch of tools from the Sharp collection. I went and tried a bunch of BOFs available on Cobalt Strike. And I just experimented and I just did a bunch of ways to do the same thing just to get familiar and find which things are the best things to use. And I did eventually find more things to use that I used on the exam. So it was definitely worthwhile. And it's worthwhile for you as a penetration tester because in the real world, you're not going to be like, okay, I just have to use what I used on the CRTP. You're going to be like, okay, what am I going to use right now that's the best thing to use right now, regardless of anything that I did in the past? And what's the fastest thing and what's the most effective thing and what provides the most value? And in order to find those things, you have to experiment. So do not skip doing the lab with just Windows because the exam is just Windows unless you want to use a publicly accessible virtual machine that you do some port forwarding with or something like that. I believe they open port 8888 for you or something on the exam outbound, so you can get away with using Kali if you really need to, but otherwise it's just going to be a Windows box that you attack from. You RDP to that Windows box and it's only Windows available. You can transfer your tools through that RDP by setting a custom drive. If you fail or do not feel comfortable doing the exam, there are plenty of other Active Directory courses that you can use. If you don't want to redo the lab, you can use other courses to get more familiar with Active Directory. And for me, that worked like a charm because I did a bunch of Active Directory courses before this course. And so I was very familiar with Active Directory already, and it helped me a lot to do the exam. So again, I'm gonna say this another time. Adopt this mentality. In real life, how would I figure to find this vulnerability? How do I know when to conduct this exploit? How do I enumerate this realistically? What are the tools? What are the commands? What is the procedure for me to do this so that I know how to enumerate for it on the exam and in real life and when to conduct the attack? This is the mentality that is going to make you into a real life penetration tester, and it's going to help you to just work wildly in the exam instead of being like, well, this was the first step in the lab, so why isn't it a first step in the exam? And this was like literally like a problem where I had on multiple different occasions. I was like, wait, is this really different from the lab when other things were similar? How could this specific thing be different? Guess what? Boom, they throw that at you. They make it like different, and you have to be a little bit creative, and you have to have repeatable methodology in order to find that hidden thing. All right, next is use BloodHound. It's much easier and faster than PowerView, but I used Cobalt, so I put this tip to use LDAP search. That doesn't apply. This PowerView tip applies. Use PowerView to fill gaps if you need to. So there's no harm in using PowerView, and it's best for you to confirm enumeration using several different methodologies instead of just relying on BloodHound. But goddamn, BloodHound is very, very useful and effective. Enumerate slowly, because if you skip vital data, you'll be stuck for a while. Now, this did not affect me as much as it could have because I took detailed notes throughout my enumeration and throughout all my steps on the exam. And when you take detailed notes, you can go back easily and be like, okay, I did this and then I did it. And, oh, wait a second, I skipped something. Or wait a second, I did not delve deeper into this specific thing. So you go back and you do it. and then you put that in your notes so that in the future, if you come back a third time, you'll be like, no, I did that, check that off, check that off, check that off. So enumerate slowly, because it's definitely going to pay off and be very much worth it. Whereas if you just conduct the attack, you might get by, you might get away with it, but ultimately it's posing a great risk in that you might miss something. Make repeatable steps for different situations. I've already touched on that. Document your commands. I've already touched on that. And lastly, use ChatGPT. So throughout the course, whenever you don't understand a concept, do not settle. Do not be like, okay, whatever, I know the attack, so I don't need to understand the concept. Just go and literally ChatGPT will teach you as much as you want to read. You can be like, only one paragraph. Teach me only one page. Teach me several pages using research and using GitHub repositories and using blog posts that you can reference to me, and teach me absolutely everything about this. And it'll teach you whatever you want, however much you want. For things not working, it's like literally the most valuable thing to utilize AI, because it knows all of that basic IT shenanigans that's involved with hacking that you skipped in order to get into cybersecurity. But I'll be talking to literal IT professionals, and they'll be like, yeah, bro, I just paste everything in IT, and they've been in IT for several years, and you'll be like, yeah, bro, someone needs help with something. I paste the error in my server farm is not working. I paste the error in ChatGPT, and it just spouts what I need to do. So yeah, if ChatGPT refuses to help you, then use Gemini, and Gemini will not refuse to help you. Like for some reason, ChatGPT will be like, "You're evil hacker," and I literally did the verification thing where I literally take pictures of myself and I take pictures of my driver's license, and it still says to me, "I'm not allowed to help you with this specific attack path. I cannot teach you. I cannot show you the faults in your command to conduct this Rubius command attack path, because you'll be violating the law." Be like, "I'm just doing a lab. You'll be violating the law." So just use Gemini if ChatGPT refuses to help you. And basically, that's kind of about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. If you struggle on the CPT and on this course, CRTP lab or course, then feel free to reach out to me. If you failed the exam a bunch of times, you can maybe reach out to me, but I won't disclose too much about the exam. If you want to reach out to me regarding other courses or other boot camps, or specifically about any cloud training, I did a lot of cloud training, so I can speak on that. I did a lot of AD courses, but still yet to pass the certifications for them. So yeah, basically, actually, there was one thing that I wanted to share, which was, like, I said a lot about what's my prior experience and what's my prior training, but I did not show you, so I'm going to go ahead and show you. Okay, so firstly, before coming into this course, I've been a offensive security analyst for a year and 4 months now, which before that I did a bunch of interns and I did have experience before that, but these are like the official jobs, paid roles that I had. And this is my experience. So I was a penetration tester before this course, and so that helped me. Now, if you're like, okay, well, I don't have the experience, well, guess what? I'd say most of my skills came from training and not experience. Experience brought me professionalism and brought me real world adaptations of the skills that I gained through my training. So in terms of education, I did management, Bachelor of Commerce, and throughout that I did try Hack Me, Hack the Box. I probably did more labs for hacking than I did my course material in this program. But Yeah, like the capstones and things and the big projects and the big exams were actually group work projects. And yeah, it was very convenient in that sense where I just did like my part in the projects, and then the rest of my time I spent hacking, and I even had time to go to the gym. So shout out to shout out to Bachelor of Commerce from McEwen, because it gave me the freedom to pursue cybersecurity alongside this Bachelor of Commerce. And even whilst I did McEwen, the Bachelor of Commerce, I was able to do OffSec, and I did the Learn one from OffSec. And I just did a bunch of I did the Pen 100 course material, I did the Pen 200 course material, I did the supplementary courses on Wi-Fi, and I just got at least attempted to get a grasp on cybersecurity through that. I was lost for the most part because just completely skipping basics in IT. And you could say, well, the Pen 100 was a basics course. Yeah, not that basics. It wasn't not that basic. It was still very difficult, but I pushed through it. I had a lot of problems, and I just tried to try harder. Overall, the course content, it's worthwhile, not just to learn cybersecurity, but I'll say it like this. The difficulty of the course that comes with how stale and boring the course material is in OffSec is a challenge in and of itself that grows you. So you have to push through this boring PDF and these really difficult to read pages and pages of text. And in doing that, you gain persistence, and you gain this hardworking mentality of, I'm not going to give up no matter how boring and no matter how stale anything is. I'm just going to push through and for my goal. And then when you get to the Hack the Box, when you get to other courses, you're like, oh my God, a plethora of exciting material and a plethora of just lab content and real attacks that you conduct for every single section. It's so amazing. And everything will become so easy. It'll become easier at least. So in terms of training, did some Cobalt Strike, Microsoft Sentinel, a little bit of blue teaming, a lot of cloud. So I did all the boot camps on Pwn Labs. I did the CRTO course and lab. Some Hack the Box, some cyber warfare labs. I believe this was just a workshop or something. I just put it on there just because. And I did the old CRTO course as well before they made the big change. I did the cyber ranges on Pwn Labs. So these are capstones, like the pro labs, but for cloud. But they still have very many, Windows and Linux fundamentals involved. So it's a very wholesome, all-inclusive sort of cyber range. And I did, like I said, all the boot camps on Pwn Labs, and I did the almost all of the cyber ranges. Some more McEwen business, attacking and defending AWS. This was when I started my cloud journey in December in 2024. And some OffSec certs. So I did have a decent amount of background knowledge, and you don't have to have that, but push through and let me know how it goes. So thank you very much for watching, and see you later.